Hi, good afternoon. This is Sherilyn live with Doily Studios, and I am here with Dawn Kirk from Heartbeat Leadership. And I just have to hold up the book because it's one of my favorite reads that I've had in a really long time. So today we're going to talk with Dawn, and we are super excited. Dawn, I'm welcome, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You look so fabulous in the chair of joy.
Thank you.
Yes. So we're going to go through our little process here. And to be frank with everyone, we are in the process of learning the methodology with the Chair of Joy. So I really appreciate you, Dawn, taking some time and having this experience with me. In general, have you taken a couple of deep breaths this week and focused on the joy along the way?
So I have to be authentic and say not as much pausing and deep breathing this week as I would have liked, because it's just been a very crazy week, but it's been a fun and exciting week. So I'm looking forward to taking a few moments today to do that.
That's exactly what we're doing. So
Yeah.
before we go further, if you just don't mind telling everyone a little bit about you and just what a couple of your big celebrations were this week.
Sure. Again, my name is Dawn Kirk. I'm a executive coach, business coach, speaker, and the best-selling author. And I'm celebrating the launch of my book. It's been out 2 weeks now, and I've been on the podcast circuit, just getting exposure and sharing the message with everyone that will listen. So I'm excited about that.
Thank you for that. There was a recent study out by the K. Kearney group, and they said that they conducted a survey in 2018, and it pronounced that there's a joy gap at work, meaning that nearly 90% of the respondents said that they expect to experience a substantial degree of joy at work, yet only 37% of people do. Do you agree with that?
I do. I've seen it. I've actually been on that side at one point in my career, so I can relate to that.
Yeah. So that is our goal here in the Chair of Joy method. So we really want to close that gap between what people expect from work and what people are actually receiving from work. So if you don't mind, you don't have to close your eyes, but if it feels comfortable for you, you don't have to look at me looking at you, but close your eyes and take a deep breath in and out. Just feel the centeredness of this, because it's been a busy day already. And luckily we have this time to just focus on you. And one more deep breath. We're going to hold it in for 4. And I want you to see if you can tap into some little moment of jewel along the way in your life. It could be when you were young and now, recent, with a friend, a family member. And then we're going to do it one more time, and we're going to tap into that a second jewel of joy. And if you could tell me the first one in as technicolor as you can.
So what immediately came to mind, get very subconscious, was just a moment on the beach. I love the ocean sounds. I love the blue skies. I love sand. And so family vacation, with my husband and my 2 teenage boys, just having a good time on the beach came to mind.
Beautiful. And the second?
Second was a girls' trip in Arizona, and we spent the day at the spa. And we had lunch, we had massages, we had facials, we had time just laughing and talking and drinking some wine in the jacuzzi. We did a little yoga. It was just an entire day of just focusing on friendship, and then a little bit of self-care as well.
That's beautiful, beautiful. So what would you say if you could tap into the family vacation once again at the beach, and the friends at the spa having lunch and laughing and drinking wine? What would you say is the connecting thread between those two?
Relationships.
So isn't it interesting that you write and everything about you is building relationships in work and your personal life and in all the things that you do? So would you agree that building relationships is probably the thing that gives you the most joy?
Absolutely.
Oh, fabulous.
I believe we're alive to share in each other's lives. So the best way to do that is to build relationships with people so you can share those special moments.
I love that. Are you doing it on the scale that you think that you are here to do it while you're here on this earth?
I think there's always room for improvement. That's just kind of how I'm wired. So I think I can do more.
Yeah.
And include more people. So I think the busier we get sometimes, that reach becomes a little narrow. I'd like to spread that a little more, particularly to, reconnect with some old friends that I haven't connected with in a long time. My family takes up a lot of my time, and rightfully so, but I want to share that a little broader with some of my friends again.
The next one is with that process of of wanting to do more in the world, if you could put some handles on this, like let's say we could put that building relationships in a little box, and you're going to put some handles on it and you're going to carry it with you everywhere you go. What does that box look like?
It's a very pretty box. I think of it as carrying, it's not a big box. It's like a jewelry box. I think of it like jewelry, like it's very precious, it's very special. You got to handle it with care. You might need a maintenance plan on it, some insurance on it,
Oh,
but it's very delicate, and it's very special, and it's reserved for those special people and special opportunities to build those relationships. And so when you hand it off with this level of care, people understand how special it is, how precious it is, and it's truly a gift that's priceless.
I feel the importance of that. It seems like you hold that really dear to your heart and close to your heart. It's so
Yeah.
very important to you. So then there you are on the plane with your beautiful box that's so luxurious and filled
Yes.
with this wisdom. What would you say to the people that are greeting you about the box? Like if you could leave a legacy, like what's your message about this piece of relationship for you?
Yeah, so I would say that the box represents a number one relationship, but number two, it's a box of hope and optimism. Like I feel like my unique purpose in life is to give people optimism, hope, and options. I mean, so many people sometimes that feel like they're stuck, feel like there's no options. And so I think of this little box as almost like a beacon of light. Like there's this hope, and when you open it up, there's all these possibilities, and that want people to dream again, and feel like whatever you can dream is possible, and focus energy into creating that versus dwelling on the current circumstances of life, because we all go through circumstances in life. That's part of living, right? But it's not so much what happens to us, but it's how we choose to respond. So that's what I would say about the box.
That's beautiful. It actually gives me goosebumps because I think people don't stop and spend a lot of time on that very important, purposeful, must-have thing in our life, which is
Mhm.
relationships. So, could you tell us a story, just a little bit about how you feel you've made an impact with building relationships in your life, like through coaching or whatever comes to mind?
Yeah. So the one thing that really comes to mind, and it was about 3 years ago when I was making the transition from corporate America to entrepreneurship. And like many of us, that wasn't my initial plan, at least at that particular moment in time. So, the organization had made a huge pivot in terms of the future of the organization. And we were all just recently told that, hey, instead of the company being reduced to 30% of its current size, it's going to cease to exist, which means everybody's job is going to go away.
Right.
And I remember my initial reaction was, oh my goodness, like I wasn't expecting that. I thought plan A, now I got to go to plan B. But through that whole process, because I always believe in options, I always believe in preparation, I was really at peace once the initial news kind of sank in.
Mhm.
And I went back to what are my options, and I kind of laid out my 3 or 4 options, and I'm ready to explore those. Well, I'm a leader of a large team where that's not necessarily where every one of my teammates were. They were, huge anxiety, some anger, some fear of what's to happen, when is it going to happen, how is it going to impact me. And because I was calm, and they noticed that, they said, why are you so calm? Like, why are you still so optimistic about the future? And I had the opportunity to share, like, my personal vulnerability and how I processed the situation. But through that process, I went on a huge passion to help each and every individual find that place of peace and joy for themselves and map their options so they too could be more proactive and land where they wanted versus landing where someone else wanted to place them. And through that process, I'm proud to say that every person on my team landed where they wanted to, whether that was in another organization, in another part of our existing organization, or two went out on their own as an entrepreneur.
That's amazing. How many would you about is that? What's the number
I
there?
mean, I had direct reports of about 8 to 10 people.
So that wasn't something that was asked of you. That's just something that
No,
you do. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no. I mean, all that was asked of me was to communicate how they were going to be impacted. That's really it,
Yeah.
right? But I took the extra step to, really make sure I was staying in touch with people, asking them how they felt. What did they want at the end of the day? Like, what do you want? Like, if you could wave a magic wand, where
Yeah.
would you be when this thing is over? And then my job was, I will do everything I can to help you get there. And I always ask them about it. And through the process, we managed to continue to be productive, and get the job done, as well as to transition efficiently as well.
Are you still in touch with them?
Yeah, many of them.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
And absolutely.
Oh my gosh, I bet there was such gratitude, or still is gratitude from that exchange. So
They're all doing well.
that's a beautiful story. And the point is that you just used the skills that you had and you went above and beyond, right? Some
Yes.
people think that for you, relationships, that sense of joy, that it's somehow sometime or in the future or later, right? But you just implemented what you've already knew and just took charge as a leader.
Yeah. And I would say the second thing is I always try to lead from a perspective of how would I want my leader to engage me? What's important to me in these moments? Then I try to lead by example and provide that, for others. So for me, it's nothing I spend a lot of time thinking about. This is just who I am.
Yeah.
And what I like to represent in the world.
Beautiful. What do you say now that you've written this amazing book called Heartbeat Leadership, and just being an advisor on the board with Joy Lee, about the conversation about putting yourself in your own chair of joy, wherever that is in your house? If we could move joy first, is it the possibility that success could increase and be more? So if I asked you, could you sit in your chair of joy 3 or 4 times a day instead of just in the morning? Is that possible?
I think it's absolutely possible. It will require intentionality. It will require scheduling.
Yes.
So absolutely. I think when you become aware of the benefits of it, that you say, I have to make room in my day for this, then you put it on the calendar just like you would do any other meeting.
Yes.
In order to make it happen. Otherwise, it won't happen. Like I'll say I'll do it 3 or 4 times a day, but it won't happen unless I actually make an appointment to go sit in the chair.
Isn't it interesting that we're last? We never get scheduled. Like, we don't do that for ourselves. Like, just imagine CEOs, if they put it on their schedule where they could go in and recall, this process that we just went through, where they could tap into, like, if I made them focus on, which employee has given you joy in the last week or the last day or today, if they did that 3 or 4 times a day, what powerful transition or transformation in themselves, but also for their employees.
Yeah. And I would probably ask them the opposite question is, who could they give joy to the balance of the day? Right?
Yeah.
Because as a leader, it's easy to say what they should be doing for us or for the leader. But honestly, in my opinion, the leader should be more about how do I influence and give back to others? So more of a servant mindset versus people giving to the leader.
And isn't it true that the leader can't give until they come from that place of joy?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, the highest form of leadership, I know you like to quote people. I love to quote John Maxwell. The highest form of leadership is self-leadership. So you cannot lead others where you haven't been, and you can't lead others well unless you're leading yourself well. And I think that's part of the gap, right? Is that we put ourselves last, therefore we're not giving our best to those around us because we don't have it.
Exactly. So I guess I'm just going to challenge you here at this point is it possible for you to go into that beautiful room by the fireplace with your beautiful chair, to take that gold scarf and put it on the chair when it's your time for your chair of joy, so everybody knows it's just you, and just tap into, oh my God, Dawn, you're so successful. I mean, I bet you are having a blast right now, right? And to tap into that joy more often instead of, I mean, this is what we live for, instead of making fleeting moments. So my challenge is, will you do?
I will. I can, I'm able, and I'm willing.
We are going to circle back and have a renewed powwow on that to find out what happened. So that would be so fun. So I have some questions for you about your book. So let's transition into that real quick. Why don't you just share with us real quick, what was your intention behind writing the book in the very first place, Heartbeat Leadership?
Yeah, my intention was pretty simple. I just wanted to share a philosophy on leadership. I wanted to help reframe the picture of leadership. I feel particularly this year has been a challenging year when you think about leadership overall in a variety of different places. And, particularly for our younger generation, if they're watching this as the picture of leadership, I don't want people to walk away with the wrong idea. So I want to help reframe the picture of leadership. And leadership is all about influence. It's all about people first. And it has nothing to do with your title. It has nothing to do with how much money you make. It's all about other people. And the highest form of leadership, again, it starts with you. So the subtitle of the book is written in a way that doesn't matter where you are in the spectrum of leadership. It starts with empowering yourself. If you're a leader of others, it talks with engaging the team. And of course, if you're working in corporate America or large businesses, it's about impacting the organization with results like we talked about earlier. And it's, for me, it's about people. And so you can have the right focus on people and you can still drive transformational results. It's not an or situation.
And so what do you think has been the lesson that you've learned from the book so far? Just doing all the coaching and the conversations with the people that are reading the book. Are you surprised that they're sort of starting from scratch, or what have you gotten so far post book?
So my biggest lesson is this. I've validated that people ultimately are good people. And I think people have great intentions. So I don't think anyone in leadership, in the positional leadership, seeks out to be a bad leader. I just don't believe that's true. However, I have discovered that there's still a lot of work to be done in this space of leadership, all because of the busyness of life right now, the pace at which business is changing, the amount of competition that's constantly evolving every single day, just the pace of our everyday lives, that we're running on a lot of autopilots.
Yeah.
And we're reacting a lot and not responding. There's a difference. And so because of that, I think that's where the gap is being created in terms of effective leadership, is because we're not taking that moment. And I think this is where there's great synergy with Joyly, is that time to pause. I say for preparation, I think really it's about reflection and pulling from within, this joy that you have and that you can exude. I think the two of those together are powerful. And if we had more of those things, that we'd have more effective leaders, we'd have, more transformational change and results in our world. And it'll just be a better place overall for everybody to live in.
I really appreciate that. I mean, I hear you take acknowledgement of the fact that our world is upside down. So where are you inserting yourself in that? Are they ready for the shift? Can they hear you? Or is it just way out there?
I think it depends on the organization. So I think there's a hybrid of all of those places. There's some that are not ready for the change at all, right?
Right.
I think though overall corporations are more ready than they were in COVID than they were pre-COVID. And I think that's because COVID has forced everybody to make a change, or you're truly going to be left behind. I think some of the things that have gone on in the world in general have caused extra pressure on corporations to say, wow, you know what? I really do have to be intentional and get engaged in these conversations, not only just to survive as a business, but just to be a good corporate citizen in general, right? So I think the groundwork is a lot more fertile than it's ever been for these conversations. And where I like to really insert myself is in two places. One is, I believe whatever the problems or challenges that a corporation is experiencing, the heart of it, no pun intended, is a leadership issue, no matter what it is. Secondly, I think it's in this space, and I think it's still a leadership issues in this diversity, equity, and inclusion space, which is all about valuing your talent and valuing people for their differences and understanding that everybody has something to offer. So those are the places. So it's leadership and this diversity and inclusion conversation, which is, a very challenging conversation, no matter where you are in the spectrum. And it's going to take courageous leaders to have the right conversations and to move it forward.
Well said. Would you say that the CEOs that are picking up the book, are they communicating with you about what their biggest takeaway was from the book?
Not yet. We're just starting to tap into that. It's been a couple of weeks. People are now got the book in their hands, in the process like you of currently reading it. And now we're in the process of circling back saying, love your feedback, your insights, your aha moments, and how do you plan to use it so that we can share that more broadly with the rest of the community.
Yeah, it's a lot. it's a lot to consume. It's beautiful and so well written. And the title or the tagline is empower yourself, engage your team, and impact your organization. And you can't skip one of those steps, right? Like I feel like I'm still in the process of empowering myself. Again, like I've had companies before, but now in this new role of Joyly, it's been a process. And I think after even just the stories of your book, I've shifted so much.
Yeah, there's this balance, right? There's this integration of you got to do a little bit of both, right? You've got to be clear on what you're looking for and what you want. And then you've got to, engage and find out what people have to offer and what they think and how they can contribute. So there's this fine line, if you will, between, focusing on what you want and need for the organization and how you bring others along with you.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But if you could bring more joy into your day and into your work, what would that look like? I mean, is that even something? Because I do believe joy is serious business, and that if we focused on it more and prioritized it more and talked about it more, I think that success would move, like I said earlier, to the back burner. So, do you see that? Do you see yourself as being an ambassador in that way?
I absolutely do. I think just by sheer the work that I do in general, coaching is very much aligned with what you're talking about. Coaching is about raising people's self-awareness in whatever category, and joy is no different, right? If somebody says, I want more joy, we go deeper into that questioning process and help them realize how to solve the gap between where they are and where they want to be. So absolutely. I think we all have room to continue to grow, to continue to expand our influence and how we serve others, right? We're here to support one another at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And in the process of doing that, I've always believed in a testimony that you'll get what you want in the process when you focus on other people first. As a former corporate executive, a current business owner, entrepreneur, and a coach of others, I absolutely see the connection between me feeling this place of joy and being very intentional about it, and then me sharing it with others. And in the context of running a business, we know that it's important to drive engagement, to retain the teams that we have, to invest in the teams that we have. And when you are at your best and you're tapping into your inner strength, you can't help but to inspire that in others. And when every person is inspired, they by default will do a better job on the business side of things. It can't not happen. It has to happen because people are going to pour more of themselves into that work, knowing that you care about them more than just the bottom line, but you care about them and investing them as a person.
Isn't it true that the struggle of the work, when you get up in the morning, you're like, oh my gosh, well, all these things to do, always takes precedence? Like, what's going to have to happen to actually make the shift?
Two things. One is, I think there's an individual component of that, and then there's a corporate component, a corporate or an organizational component of that. The organization's job is to connect the mission and vision of the work that they do organizationally to the values and inspiration that of the employees and the team that they have, right? When they connect and they're in alignment, that's when the magic happens. As an individual, if you are working in an environment where it is not aligned with your values and about what's important to you and who you are, I don't care how many days you sit in the joy seat, it's not going to work because it's not authentic to you and to who you are. You're not invested in the mission and vision of the company or organization you're spending all this time with. So if you're sitting in the joy, the chair of joy, and you still find it tough to share that joy, you may be in the wrong organization. Good. That's a fact. So I think the closer that company values and organizational values line up with the individuals that work there, and vice versa, that's when the marriage really happens. And then when each individual takes more time to tap into their joy, then that's when the momentum really starts to build. And then you've got a perfect marriage, and it'll continue to thrive.
Yeah. Boy, we need the reminder for that. That is absolutely true. And I asked you earlier how we can support your work in the world, and you did say for us to buy your book. But is there something else that we can do to help you bring that suitcase, if you will, to bring that relationship message to the world in a different way, like on a global level? Is there something that might be a good partnership between us, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, I think continuing to share the message, introductions to people who want to have a greater influence in general, and
Yeah.
maybe just don't know how to do it. I think, I think the unique proposition I bring to the table is, I've experienced a lot of what my messaging is, but secondly, the feedback I've gotten is like, hey, we get a lot of information about what the problems are,
Hmm.
but it's sometimes tough to find the real simple playbook on how do I do it. So that's what like really my motivation around the book is to provide the how to in a simple, digestible way that whether you're the CEO of the organization or you just joined the organization on the first level in an organization, that you find value in the book.
I'm talking to CEOs all the time, and they're just like, I gotta, the tech, and I gotta get, the SEO, and I gotta, blah, 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 blah. It's like,
Yeah,
slow down.
slow
Like,
down.
success is not what's first, or the problem solving necessarily. It's backwards. Put joy
Right.
first. So
Re-engineer it,
re-engineer it.
reverse engineer it.
I
Yes.
love it. And so
Yeah.
then the follow up again is after they experience the joy and they understand that, then
Mhm.
their marketing and everything they do through the joy lens, if you will, and leadership, from the heart
Yeah,
is exactly what they need to hear. And so
absolutely.
I'm so excited to
Absolutely.
know you.
Absolutely. So yeah, when you meet people who are, that are at that critical juncture where they're ready to go to that next level and they want to optimize and maximize that, have them come talk to me. I do free consultations. Doesn't cost you a thing just to have a conversation.
Good to know. Good to know. All right. I'm going to wrap up with this. Any last words for our listeners?
No, just go out and have a joyful day.